What happens when a duchess faces off against one of Britain's most outspoken presenters on live television? In just 30 seconds, a conversation about charity work explodes into the most shocking moment in daytime TV history. Before we dive into this unbelievable confrontation, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Last night's episode of Loose Women was supposed to be a straightforward chat about Meghan's latest philanthropic ventures. Instead, viewers witnessed an absolute meltdown that had jaws dropping across the country. The tension started building the moment Meghan walked onto that set, and what unfolded was nothing short of television carnage. The atmosphere in the studio was already charged before Meghan even sat down. You could feel it in the air, crackling like electricity before a storm. The production team had been buzzing about interview all week, whispering in corners, placing bets on how it would go. The audience knew they were about to witness something special. They just didn't know how special it would actually become. How this seemingly innocent interview would transform into one of the most dramatic moments in British television history. Meghan walked onto the set with her signature confident smile, waving to the audience who gave her a mixed reception. Some cheered, some stayed silent, and you could already sense the division in the room. She wore an expensive cream blazer and looked every bit the polished celebrity she had become. But beneath that glossy exterior, you could see the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. She knew what she was walking into. Denise Welch, never one to hold back, sat in her usual spot with that look she gets when she's ready for a fight. Her arms were crossed, her expression skeptical, and anyone who watches the show regularly knew exactly what was coming. She opened with what seemed like a simple question, but anyone who knows Denise could hear the edge in her voice right from the start. So Meghan, lovely to have you here. Let's talk about your charity work. Some people have been questioning whether these initiatives are about helping others or keeping yourself in the headlines. What do you say to that? You could see Meghan's smile tighten immediately. Her posture shifted, becoming more defensive, more guarded. The transformation was instant. Well, Denise, I think anyone who actually looks at the work we're doing would see it's genuine. We've raised millions for causes that desperately need attention. Children's literacy, mental health support, women's empowerment. These are real issues affecting real people. Right. Denise nodded, but her tone suggested she wasn't buying a word of it. But isn't it interesting that every single charitable announcement seems to come with a photo shoot? A glossy magazine spread? Your face front and center, perfectly lit, perfectly styled? It's never just about the cause, is it? It's always about you too. The other panelists shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Janet Street Porter exchanged a knowing glance with Kay Adams. This was going south fast, faster than anyone expected, and they all knew it. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Meghan's voice stayed controlled, but there was an edge creeping in, sharp and dangerous. I'm not sure what you're implying, Denise. Should I hide when doing charity work? Should I refuse to be photographed? Would that make it more legitimate in your eyes? Would you even know about these causes if there wasn't a face attached to them? I'm not implying anything, love. I'm asking directly. Denise leaned forward, her eyes fixed on Meghan like a predator watching prey. Because some of us have been doing charity work for decades without the constant PR machine behind it, without the Netflix cameras following our every move, without the magazine exclusives and the carefully coordinated social media posts. We just do the work because it matters, not because it makes us look good. Maybe if you had a PR machine, people would actually know about your charity work. Meghan shot back, and you could hear the audience gasp. Some people laughed nervously. The gloves were coming off, and coming off fast. This was escalating way quicker than anyone anticipated. Denise's eyebrows shot up, a dangerous smile crossing her face. Oh, so now we're getting personal? All right then. Let's talk about personal. Let's talk about how you've managed to fall out with your entire family, Harry's entire family, and somehow the common factor in all of this is you. Doesn't that make you wonder? Doesn't that make you think maybe, just maybe, you're part of the problem? That's completely out of line, Meghan said, her composure starting to crack like ice under pressure. You could see her hands gripping, the arms of her chair tighter, her knuckles going white. You don't know anything about my family situation. You weren't there. You don't know what happened behind closed doors. I know what everyone knows, darling. I know about the Oprah interview where you trashed the entire royal family. I know about the Netflix series where you aired more dirty laundry. I know about the tell-all books, the constant victim narrative while you're sitting in your California mansion worth millions. Denise wasn't backing down an inch. If anything, she was leaning in harder, pressing her advantage. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. You could see it in the way the audience sat frozen, in the way the camera operators were zooming in closer. Sensing this was television gold. The producers were probably having a heart attack in the control room, but this was live television, and there was no stopping it now. The train had left the station, and it was heading straight for a catastrophic crash. Meghan stood up slightly from her chair, her body language becoming more aggressive, more confrontational. I came here to talk about helping children in need, and you're turning this into some kind of tabloid ambush. This isn't journalism, this is harassment. An ambush? Denise laughed, but it wasn't friendly. It was cold, mocking, dripping with disdain. This is called journalism, sweetheart. Real questions, hard questions. Not the softball nonsense you get from your American chat show friends who treat you like royalty even though you couldn't hack it as actual royalty. Not the pre-approved questions your PR team sends over. I can't believe this. Meghan looked to the other panelists, searching for allies. But none of them were jumping to her defense. Kay looked deeply uncomfortable, shifting in her seat. Janet had that expression she gets when she's about to pile on, when she smells blood in the water. Is this what British television is? Just tearing people down? Just cruelty for entertainment? Janet Street Porter, another panelist, finally spoke up, and her voice was sharp. Well, Meghan, you have to admit, you've said some pretty harsh things about Britain and the British people, about the royal family, about the institution that gave you everything. You took the title, you took the wealth, you took the platform, and then you turned around and trashed it all. You can't expect everyone to just smile and nod when you come back asking for good press. I told my truth, Meghan insisted, her voice rising, getting louder with each word. I told the truth about what I experienced, about what happened to me, about how I was treated, about the racism, the isolation, the lack of support when I was struggling. Your truth, Denise repeated mockingly, putting exaggerated air quotes around the words. That's the problem right there, isn't it? Not the truth, your version, your side of the story where everyone else is the villain, and you're the perpetual victim and hero, all rolled into one convenient package, where nothing is ever your fault. This is unbelievable, Meghan said again, and now she was fully standing, towering over the seated panelists. Her face was flushed, her breathing quick and shallow. I don't have to sit here and be attacked like this. I don't have to tolerate this abuse. No one's attacking you, Denise countered, also standing now to match Meghan's energy, to meet her at eye level. We're asking questions, tough questions that millions of people want answered. Questions about your inconsistencies, questions about your contradictions, questions about your motives. Why is that so threatening to you? Why can't you handle basic scrutiny? Because they're not questions, they're accusations. Meghan's voice was loud now, echoing through the studio, bouncing off the walls, and the audience was completely silent, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Some people had their phones out, recording, knowing this would be everywhere by morning. You've decided who I am before I even sat down. You invited me here just to ambush me on live TV, to humiliate me, to make me look bad. This was a setup from the beginning. Denise stood up too, matching Meghan's energy beat for beat. not giving an inch of ground. We invited you here to have a real conversation. Not another puff piece where we all pretend you're beyond criticism. Not another controlled environment where you get to play victim without anyone pushing back. Not another soft interview where you cry on cue and everyone feels sorry for you. If you can't handle that, then maybe you should stick to podcasts you control and interviews with friends who won't challenge you. Maybe I should. Meghan fired back, her voice sharp as a blade, cutting through the tension. Maybe I should leave right now because this is absolute bullshit, and I don't have to stand here and take it. The curse word hung in the air, like a bomb had just gone off. This was daytime television. You just didn't swear on loose women. The audience gasped audibly, a collective intake of breath. Even the camera operators seemed to flinch, and you could see the panic in the director's booth reflected in the monitors. "Feel free," Denise said coolly, gesturing dramatically toward the exit with a sweep of her arm. "No one's keeping you here. The door's right there. Though running away seems to be your specialty, doesn't it? When things get tough, you run." The show's host, Kay Adams, tried desperately to intervene, her voice rising in panic, trying to regain control of her show. "Ladies, please, let's all just take a breath and calm down for a moment. We're all getting a bit heated here." But Meghan was already unhooking her microphone, her fingers fumbling with the clasp in her anger, shaking with rage. "I'm done. This was a mistake. Coming here was a massive mistake. I should have known better than to trust British media again. I should have learned my lesson the first time. Finally, something we can agree on," Denise muttered, loud enough for all the microphones to catch, loud enough for the audience to hear. "You coming here was definitely a mistake, for everyone involved." That was the final straw. Meghan ripped the mic pack off completely and threw it onto her chair with force, the equipment bouncing and clattering. "You know what, Denise? The real tragedy here is that you're using your platform to spread the same kind of hate and toxicity that made my life hell in the first place. The same cruelty that drove me to dark thoughts. The same nastiness that made me question whether life was worth living. You should be ashamed of yourself." "I should be ashamed?" Denise's voice went up an octave, her face reddening, veins visible in her neck. "I'm not the one who married into the most famous family in the world and then cashed in on trashing them every chance I got. I'm not the one who did a tell-all interview seen by 50 million people, wrote a tell-all book through my husband, did a 6-part Netflix series, and then complained about privacy and wanting to be left alone. Don't talk to me about shame, love. Don't you dare." Meghan was gathering her things now, stuffing items into her bag, her hands shaking with anger and adrenaline. "You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what I went through. None of you do. You weren't there. You didn't live it. You didn't experience the hell I experienced." "Then tell us." Denise spread her arms wide, her voice booming through the studio. "Tell us right now. Explain yourself. Explain the contradictions. Explain why your story keeps changing depending on which interview you're doing. Explain why your version of events doesn't match anyone else's. But you won't, will you? Because that would require actual transparency instead of carefully crafted sound bites and PR-approved statements. I have explained myself, multiple times, to millions of people, in multiple forums, in multiple countries." Meghan's voice was sharp as glass, cutting through the air like a weapon. "But people like you will never listen, because you've already made up your minds. You've already decided I'm the villain, so nothing I say will ever be good enough. No explanation will ever satisfy you." Janet jumped in again, piling on, unable to resist. "Maybe if the explanation didn't keep changing, depending on which interview you're doing, we'd find it easier to believe. Maybe if your version of events matched up with literally anyone else who was there, we'd take it more seriously. But it's always different. Always shifting." Meghan spun on her, eyes blazing with pure fury. "Are you seriously ganging up on me right now? All three of you? This is what British women do to each other? This is sisterhood? This is female empowerment? Don't you dare play the women card. Denise shot back instantly, her voice like a whip. This has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with accountability. Something you seem allergic to. Something you run from every single time. No one's ganging up, Kay tried again, her voice weak against the storm raging around her, like a whisper in a hurricane. We're just having a discussion, trying to get to the bottom of some questions that people have. A discussion? Meghan laughed bitterly, a harsh sound that had no humor in it whatsoever. This is a hit job. This is 3 against 1, and I'm supposed to just sit here and take it? Just smile and nod while you tear me apart piece by piece on national television? Denise wasn't done. She was on a roll now, and there was no stopping her, no slowing her down. You know what, Meghan? The real problem here is you can't handle anyone disagreeing with you. Everyone has to worship you. Believe everything you say without question. Never challenge your version of events. Never ask for proof or clarification. That's not how the real world works. That's not how accountability works. That's not how being an adult works. The real world, Meghan repeated slowly, dangerously, each word dripping with venom. The real world, where you make money, gossiping about people you've never met. Where you judge situations you know nothing about, based on tabloid reports and rumors. Where you profit from other people's pain and misery. That real world? I know enough, Denise shot back fiercely, not missing a beat. I know you've alienated everyone who doesn't tell you what you want to hear. I know you've turned Harry against his own family, his own blood, people who loved him his entire life. I know you've managed to isolate him from everyone who cared about him before you came along. I know. Don't you dare talk about my husband. Meghan's voice went dangerously quiet, which was somehow more terrifying than when she was shouting. The quiet rage was palpable, suffocating. You don't know him. You don't know us. You don't know our relationship. You don't know our marriage. You don't know anything except what you read in the same trashy tabloids you claim to despise. The audience was completely mesmerized, leaning forward in their seats. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This wasn't scripted drama. This was real conflict, real anger, real hatred playing out in real time on live television. Unfiltered and raw. I know that his relationship with William is destroyed, Denise continued, undeterred, hammering her points home like nails into a coffin. I know that his father barely speaks to him anymore. I know that the Queen, his beloved grandmother, died without him being there to make amends properly, without being able to say goodbye the way he should have. And the common factor in all of this recent drama, in all this family destruction, is you. Just you. Meghan's face went pale, then red, cycling through emotions. How dare you? How dare you bring his grandmother into this? That's disgusting. That's low, even for you. Even by your standards, that's despicable. What's disgusting is how you've systematically isolated him from everyone who loved him before you came along. Denise fired back without missing a beat, relentless. What's disgusting is watching you turn him into someone his own family doesn't recognize anymore. Someone his friends don't know. I haven't isolated anyone. He made his own choices. We made choices together as a couple because we were being destroyed by the British press and your horrible, toxic, racist tabloid culture. Meghan's voice cracked with emotion, tears threatening. Oh, here we go again. Blame Britain. Blame the press. Blame the family. Blame the institution. Blame racism. Blame everyone and everything except yourself. Denise's voice dripped with sarcasm and disdain. Meghan grabbed her bag, slinging it over her shoulder with force that made the leather straps snap loudly. I'm leaving. This is toxic. You're toxic. This whole setup is toxic. This whole country is toxic. I can't breathe in here. Then go, Denise said flatly, coldly, her voice like ice. Run away. It's what you do best, isn't it? When things get difficult, when people ask tough questions, when reality doesn't match your fantasy, you bail. You run. You abandon ship. You ran from your family. You ran from your first marriage. You ran from your acting career when it wasn't making you famous enough. You ran from the royal family. I didn't run from anything, Meghan shouted. And now her composure was completely gone, shattered into a million pieces on the studio floor. I escaped from a situation that was destroying my mental health. I was having suicidal thoughts. I told them I needed help, and they did nothing. Do you understand that? Do you comprehend what it's like to be pushed to that edge? To feel that desperate? To want to die? The studio went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear people breathing. Even Denise seemed momentarily taken aback by the raw emotion in Meghan's voice, by the genuine pain that broke through. But she recovered quickly, because Denise always does. And I'm sorry you went through that. I genuinely am. Mental health is incredibly important, and no one should ever feel that way. But you don't get to use that as a shield against all criticism forever. You don't get to monetize your pain, sell it to Netflix for millions, put it in books, talk about it in every single interview, and then simultaneously demand everyone shut up and stop asking questions about the inconsistencies in your story. You can't have it both ways. I'm not monetizing anything, Meghan insisted. But her voice was shaking now, breaking, barely holding together. I'm trying to use my platform for good, to help people who are going through what I went through, to shine a light on mental health issues. And people like you just want to tear me down at every turn. You want to destroy me. Your platform that only exists because you married a prince, Janet interjected coldly, twisting the knife. Let's be completely real here. Without Harry, you'd still be on a cable show that no one outside America had ever heard of. You'd be doing bit parts and hoping for your big break. Meghan whirled on her, eyes blazing with absolute fury. And what's your platform, Janet? Being bitter and mean on daytime TV? Spending your life criticizing people more successful than you? At least I'm trying to do something positive with my voice instead of just spreading negativity. Oh, now she's attacking us personally, Janet said directly to the camera, playing to the audience like a seasoned pro. Very classy, very Duchess-like behavior, very royal. You've been attacking me personally this entire time. Meghan's voice cracked, tears of frustration visible in her eyes now, streaming down her carefully made-up face. From the literal second I sat down in this chair, from the moment I walked onto this set, this has been nothing but a personal attack. You haven't asked me one single genuine question about the charity work I'm actually trying to do. Not one. Denise crossed her arms, her stance aggressive, dominating. If you perceive legitimate questions as attacks, that says more about you than it does about us. That says you can't handle scrutiny. That says you can't defend your own actions when challenged. These aren't questions, Denise. You know they're not. They're accusations dressed up as questions. They're judgments pretending to be journalism. You've already decided I'm guilty of everything you're suggesting, and nothing I say will change your mind. This trial was decided before it started. Maybe because the evidence is pretty damning, Denise replied coldly, her expression hard. Maybe because your actions speak louder than your carefully worded denials. Maybe because we have eyes and ears. Meghan's eyes were fully wet now, tears flowing freely. Whether from anger or frustration or both, it was impossible to tell. Her mascara was starting to run. You people are unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I came here in good faith to talk about helping children who are struggling with literacy, with poverty, with mental health, and you've turned it into this circus, this character assassination, this public execution. Good faith? Denise scoffed loudly, mockingly. You came here for publicity, to rehabilitate your image in the UK because you know the American public is starting to see through the act, to pretend you care what British people think, when your actions have shown consistently that you couldn't care less about this country or its people. You're here because your approval ratings are tanking. I don't have to prove anything to you, Meghan said, her voice steadier now, colder, more controlled, finding some reserve of strength. I don't have to justify my life choices to someone who makes a living being cruel on television, someone who builds their entire career on negativity and tearing others down. Cruel? Denise's voice rose again, hitting a new pitch of indignation. I'm being honest. I'm being real. I'm saying what millions of people are thinking. That's not cruelty. That's honesty. That's journalism. Maybe you've been surrounded by yes people and sycophants for so long you've forgotten what honest feedback sounds like. Maybe that's the real problem here. Maybe you're so used to people kissing your arse that you can't handle reality anymore. Meghan started walking toward the edge of the set. Her decision made. Her mindset. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with you. I'm done with all of this. I'm done with Britain and everything it represents. Kay made one last desperate attempt to salvage something, anything, from this complete disaster. Meghan, please, just sit back down for one moment and let's try to find some common ground here. No, Meghan cut her off firmly, her voice like steel, unbreakable. I will not sit back down. I will not continue this farce for another second. I will not participate in this ambush, in this hit job. You brought me here under false pretenses, and I'm leaving. I'm walking out of here with my dignity intact, which is more than I can say for any of you. Denise called after her, unable to resist one final jab, one last twist of the knife. False pretenses? We told you it would be a conversation about your work. A real conversation. You just can't handle anyone not kissing your arse. You can't handle being treated like everyone else, instead of like royalty. You can't handle reality. Meghan stopped at the very edge of the stage, turning back one final time, her silhouette framed by the studio lights. Her face was a mask of controlled fury, of barely contained rage. You want to know the truth, Denise? The real truth? People like you are exactly why Harry and I left. This cruelty, this nastiness, this obsession with tearing people down instead of building them up. This toxic, negative, hateful culture that celebrates destruction, you can have it. You can have all of it. I'm out. I'm done. Good! Denise shouted back, her voice echoing through the studio, bouncing off every wall. And don't come back crying to the British public when you need us again. When your American dream falls apart and you need somewhere to run. When Hollywood gets tired of you. I don't need you. Meghan's voice echoed through the studio, raw and powerful, filled with years of pent-up frustration. I never needed you. We're doing just fine without Britain, without the monarchy, without the tabloids, without any of this backwards, obsessed, cruel nonsense. We're thriving. Then why are you here? Janet called out, standing now too, everyone on their feet. Why do you keep coming back if you're so done with us? Why do you care what we think? Why does our opinion matter if you're so happy? Meghan didn't answer. She couldn't answer because Janet had hit a nerve, had exposed something raw and true. She just turned sharply on her heel and walked straight off the set with purpose, her heels clicking loudly in the stunned silence like gunshots. The cameras followed her all the way to the exit, capturing every moment, every step, as she pushed through the heavy studio door with both hands and disappeared from view into the darkness beyond. The door slammed behind her with a bang that seemed to shake the entire studio, that seemed to mark the end of something. The three panelists stood in shock for a long moment, processing what had just happened. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay quiet or what to do. Some people looked excited, energized by the drama. Others looked deeply uncomfortable, like they'd witnessed something they shouldn't have. This was way beyond what anyone had expected when they'd gotten tickets to a daytime talk show. Kay looked directly at the camera, her face pale, trying desperately to regain some control of her show, to salvage something professional from this disaster. Well, she started, but her voice faltered, catching in her throat. Well, Denise finally said, breaking the heavy silence that had fallen over the studio, a slight smile playing on her lips despite everything. I think that went well, don't you? Janet let out a nervous laugh, but there was no humor in it, just tension and awkwardness. The tension was still thick in the air, the awkwardness palpable, suffocating. They had just witnessed something unprecedented. A complete breakdown of civility. A total destruction of the usual talk show format. An explosion that would be analyzed and discussed for months. "We're going to take a quick break," Kay managed to say, though her voice wavered and cracked with emotion and shock. "We'll be right back after these messages. Please, everyone, just stay calm." But as the cameras finally cut away and the red lights went dark, everyone in that studio knew nothing would be the same after this. The confrontation between Meghan Markle and Denise Welch would go down as one of the most explosive, most dramatic, most shocking moments in British daytime television history. What started as a simple interview about charity work had devolved into a brutal, unfiltered clash of personalities and perspectives that would be replayed and analyzed and memed and discussed for weeks, months, maybe years to come. The door Meghan had stormed through remained firmly closed. She was gone, completely gone, and she wasn't coming back. Not to that set, not to that show, and possibly not to British television at all. The bridge hadn't just been burned, it had been completely destroyed, blown to smithereens, reduced to ash.